Hi folks, thanks for watching my monologue. As America starts to reopen, just remember that guns, etc. never closed. They still have over 10,200 square feet of ammo, firearms, and accessories, including safes, and they remain open for business. Stop by their huge store in Mesa or just click on gunsetcetera.com. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to 960 The Patriots YouTube channel. Thanks. Welcome back and happy June 1st, 2020. Maybe it's time for some hard truths. Maybe it's time to stop coddling and nurturing the my truth culture, because if there's no truth and just 300 million people with their own version of the truth, there's nothing more than anarchy, or perhaps rioting. Again, maybe we need to stop the nonsense that everything here in America is terrible, or worse, and always. Maybe we should ask why people protest this country that ended slavery nearly 160 years ago, but have nary a peep, never mind peaceful rally, against countries that engage in slavery today, right now. Of course, to do that would be to admit that we are not the worst. These are the wages of defining excellence down, defining greatness down. They're the wages of defining tyranny up. Oh, and about that slavery, it wasn't the whole country, it was a part. The other part was busy, dying by the hundreds of thousands to end it. A U.S. president gave his life to end it. Did that end our problems? Of course not. Many were to come. I'm making a different point. Why is it people protest more over slavery that ended here by dint of a great American ethic and effort than over slavery that exists and where it exists today? Why, in other words, after we ended it, is it still with us? And where it still exists, you hear nothing about it. It's as if it doesn't exist. A few other hard truths about the notion of my truth. It leads to someone's feelings being more important than anyone's facts. You can protest over facts because it gives you a public policy to change. It gives you an action item. You cannot protest over feelings because all that does is give you the job of trying to get others to share your feelings. And if everyone is entitled to their truths or their feelings, no change will ever come. It'll never happen. Martin Luther King Jr. took facts and changed policy, leading to the monumental Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts. He tried to, and he did, change policy by referring to American and America's greatness. He knew what today's protesters and rioters don't. Without America being a great country, without the majority of the population being a good and decent people, no change could possibly come. How could it? You can protest and change a George Wallace and a Lyndon Johnson. You cannot protest and change an Adolf Hitler or a Joseph Stalin. Is that why there is rioting? Because no change is actually expected? I suppose so, when you call our president and think of him as a Hitler. That has been the effort for 4 years, hasn't it been? But does anyone stop and ask the king question? Are we a good people or are we not? And if we're not, why would you expect any change whatsoever? Did we not twice elect an African-American president from even some of the whitest states over and against an American war hero and one of the most famous names in American political history? Did we not have 2 black attorneys general under him? Do we not have black police chiefs and mayors in nearly every big city? Heck, Minneapolis does, including a black vice president of the city council, a black attorney general, black representative in Congress from the very district George Floyd was killed in. What and where is the institutional racism? The Minneapolis police force? Okay, you have to explain to me what kind of progressive mayor and black police chief and Democratic city council and member of Congress from that district would tolerate and institutionalize that kind of racism. Only the most incompetent of kinds, unless you think they turned a blind eye to it. But then again, it forces you to admit things aren't awful. They're pretty good. Hard truth time. We've been elevating the Colin Kaepernick point of view at the expense of every other. And his point of view is simply wrong. Not just wrong-headed, but wrong. There is myth and there is science. The social science is there for anyone to see. So perhaps if college students weren't busy throwing bricks and brickbats at the Heather McDonalds of the world, they'd know more science than myth. They would know this fact. Quote, We found that the race of the officer doesn't matter when it comes to predicting whether black or white citizens are shot. If anything, black citizens are more likely to have been shot by black officers, but this is because black officers are drawn from the same population that they police. So the more black citizens there are in a community, the more black police officers there are, close quote. That's not from Heather McDonald or Donald Trump. That's from the National Academy of Sciences and a study conducted by the University of Maryland and Michigan State University together. Let me read you a little more from the study. Quote, the vast majority, between 90 and 95% of the civilians shot by officers were actively attacking police or other citizens when they were shot. 90% also were armed with a weapon when they were shot. The horrific cases of accidental shootings, like mistaking a cell phone for a gun, are rare. We hear about the really horrendous and tragic cases of police shootings for a reason. They're awful cases. They have major implications for police-community relations, and so they should get attention. But this ends up skewing perceptions about police shootings and leads people to believe that all fatal shootings are similar to the ones we hear about. That's just not the case, close quote. Same study, National Academy of Sciences. Some more facts. Blacks commit 85.5% of all black-white interracial violent victimizations, excluding interracial homicide, which is also disproportionately black on white. Whites commit 14.4% of all interracial violent victimization, or 91,470 felonious assaults on blacks. Blacks are less than 13% of the national population, close quote. So let's, I beg you, get back to some basics. You have an awful, terrible, words fail set of behavior or behaviors from several police officers in Minneapolis, and it's been extrapolated to cover an entire institution or country. 1 or 4 policemen did something horrible and sickening. How is all America responsible? How are all police responsible? I hope one understands immediately what is going on here, a rule of common sense that has been turned on its head, a rule against prejudice being perverted. The rule, we are told, again, rightly, not to follow, is that one represents the whole. An asterisk defines the theme. An extreme defines the mean. Nobody seriously believes that. We call that prejudice. You know how it works. Because some people who are black cause some crimes, we cannot morally or in any other way treat every black person as a criminal or prospective criminal. Same for whites. Same for anyone else. Because one person did X does not mean all people of that category, racial, ethnic, or otherwise, did X or are responsible for X. It's really quite simple. It seems odd to even have to say it, but the left does preach this the other way around, don't you see? Because some white people owned slaves years ago, all white people owned or were responsible today for slavery. It could be easier if you wanted it, but we don't operate that way. The inverse never applies. Try it out. Because hundreds of thousands of whites pledged and gave their lives to end slavery, all whites did. No one says that. You see, prejudice only runs one direction, and if it doesn't fulfill a narrative, it will be forgotten or untaught. So we come to Minneapolis. 4 police officers are responsible for the death of an African-American man there. That's what the video shows. That's what the rioting is ostensibly about. The federal government started an investigation. The state has an investigation. All the officers have been let go. 1 has been arrested. That's what should happen or should have happened when something that took place should not have. What should not happen is that people all over the country tell us they feel aggrieved by this or threatened by this. They worry about their families. They worry about their children. I'm sorry. There is something as self-induced fear. There is something known as anxiety. It's an abnormal condition. In fact, it's known as a disorder. This is not a country where a white man or black man should have to fear for his or her life because they are white or black. This is a country where a white person or black person should be able to do anything they aspire to, from running for and being elected president to sitting on the Supreme Court to becoming a police chief, and it happens all the time. Thus, anxiety, a disorder, a feeling that does not comport with facts, and it is self-induced. Quick, tell me, who is the conservative movement's favorite Supreme Court justice, if not just now, in all history? If you said a black man named Clarence Thomas, you'd probably be in the 85 to 90 percentile of being right. Quick, tell me, who is the Republican candidate for president's first answer always whenever asked who their favorite president is? If you said Abraham Lincoln, you'd probably be in the 85 to 90 percentile again for being right. The only other acceptable answer seems to be Ronald Reagan, the man who in and of himself helped desegregate his own high school football team by having black players stay with him in his home when they couldn't stay at hotels. One of those players, a black man named William Burgart, was, according to Reagan, the best friend he ever had. I know, data is not the plural of anecdote, but when you start judging people by race or a country and whip yourself into a frenzy about it, a panic, an anxiety, it's a disorder. Have you ever seen the movie Primary Colors or read the novel? The governor of Florida, Fred Picker, grabs everyone's attention as a potential candidate in one of those frenzies of activity we all go through and are going through right now. He held a press conference and he said this, quote, "I wish everyone would just calm down a little. When I say everyone, I mean the press and the TV crews and all my colleagues and all the people who advise my colleagues. I think we need to calm down some. You know, this is a terrific country, but sometimes we go a little crazy. But if we don't watch out and calm down, it may all spin out of control," close quote. Boy, I hope we're not there yet. But if we are, if pandemonium be our lot, it will be based on anxieties born of falsehoods. And that would be the greatest crime of all. False narratives ending true greatness. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.